Hi kids, it's chapter book time. Grab something for your hands like we do at school. See if you can find yourself a piece of clay or a string, or you could draw like we do at school during chapter book time. So we're gonna read A Mouse Called Wolf. I love this story. It's about a mouse who becomes friends with the lady whose house he lives in. And one day she has an emergency and the mouse actually saves her. It's really fun. So it's written by an author named Dick King Smith, and it's illustrated by John Goodall. Want to see the cover? Do you see that cute mouse? Okay. All right, are you cozy? Are you ready? Zanzibar's cozy. He's snoring. I hope it's not too loud. All right, chapter 1, A Name. Wolfgang Amadeus Mouse was the youngest of 13 children. He was also the smallest. His mother had given the other 12 mouse pups quite ordinary names like Bill or Jane. Did you know that when a mouse is born, it's called a pup? Kind of like a dog? Okay. But when she looked at her last-born and saw that he was only half as big as his brothers and sisters, she said to herself, he should have an important sounding name to make up for his lack of size. On second thought, he should have 2 important sounding names. But what should they be? Now it so happened that this particular mother mouse lived in a house belonging to a lady who played the piano. It was a grand piano that stood close to a living room wall, so that its left front leg almost touched the molding. In the molding, hidden from the human eye by the piano leg, was a hole. In this hole lived the mother mouse, whose name was Mary. One night, when the lady of the house had played a final tune on the piano and had gone to bed, Mary came out of the hole in the molding. She ran up the left front leg and onto the keyboard, which as usual had been left open, and bounced along over the keys. But even though she was heavy with young, that means she was pregnant with the mouse babies are still inside. Even though she was heavy with young, she was still much too light to make any noise. Then, when she saw that a single sheet of music had been left lying on the piano stool, just what I need to start making my nest with, said Mary Mouse, and by pushing at the sheet, a piece of music by Mozart, with her little forepaws, she managed to send it sailing down to the floor. Because it was too big to drag through the mouse hole, she cut it up into smaller pieces with her sharp teeth and pulled the pieces inside. Over the next day, Mary chewed these small pieces of paper into shreds and with them built herself a most comfortable nest. Do you see the picture? In this, in due course, she gave birth to her 13 pups. Only when they were several days old and she had made the decision that the 13th and littlest must have not 1 but 2 names, and important sounding names at that, did something catch her eye. It was a scrap of the sheet music that had somehow escaped being chewed up, and it had some writing on it. Mary got out of her nest to inspect it. It said, Wolfgang Amadeus Mo. Mary gave a squeak of delight. Perfect, she cried to all the blind and naked pups. When mice are born, they can't see yet, and they don't have any fur. That's why she called them naked. Then she softly whispered in the littlest one's ear, this name was specially designed for you, dear. I feel it in my bones. Why, to be sure, the last 3 letters of the 3rd word are missing, but there's no doubt what they were. The smallest you may be, but these names will make you the greatest Wolfgang Amadeus Mouse. Chapter 2, A Joke. A few weeks later, the mouse pups began to venture out of the hole in the molding at night. Before long, they learned to climb up the left front leg of the grand piano played on the keyboard. In particular, they liked to race along the keys. Sometimes they were flat races along the 52 white keys from bass to treble, and sometimes they were hurdled races over the 36 raised black keys. Some nights one pup would win, some nights another, but Wolfgang Amadeus, being so small, was always last. He found the hurdles difficult to get over, and quite often, in the flat races, the rush of his bigger brothers and sisters running past him would cause him to lose his footing on the slippery white keys, and he'd fall to the floor. Do you see it? There he is, falling down. Luckily, the room was thickly carpeted, and he would fall very lightly, usually landing on his feet without harm. But the others, of course, just laughed as they peered over the edge and looked down at him. That's not very nice. They were not very nice to him, partly on account of his lack of size, partly because it seemed to them that he was his mother's favorite, but mostly on account of his long name. All the time, they heard Mary Mouse's anxious voice crying, "Wolfgang Amadeus! Wolfgang Amadeus! Where are you? Are you all right? Did you hurt yourself falling off the piano, Wolfgang Amadeus?" At first, Bill and Jane and Tom and Anne and all the rest teased their little brother out of their mother's earshot about the strange long name, and they even made up a rhyme that they squeaked at him all together, especially every time he fell off of the piano. "Who is small and meek and mild? Who is Mommy's favorite child? Who's no bigger than a louse? Wolfgang Amadeus Mouse." All this made Wolfgang Amadeus unhappy, and one day he said to his mother, "Mommy, why do I have to have such a long name when all the others have such short names?" "Because yours is an important sounding one, Wolfgang Amadeus," replied Mary. "And you are going to grow up to be an important mouse. You cannot have a short name." But in the end, he did, given to him by the other pups. They had been playing another one of their favorite games, which took place on top of the grand piano. They would line up on the curved edge at the back of the instrument, and then each one in turn would see how far he or she could slide across its highly polished, gleaming surface. One after another, they would run and then slide on their furry, fat little tummies. The object was to reach the straight front edge of the piano top without falling over and down onto the keyboard below. Sometimes they did fall over, but it was only a short drop, and they would soon scramble back up again, squeaking with laughter. One night, when they were playing this sliding game, one of them called out to another, "Look at that Wolfgang Amadeus. He's hopeless. He never gets more than halfway across. He can't get up enough speed. His legs aren't long enough." "There's only one thing long about him," said the other, "and that's his name. I can't get my tongue around it. It's too much of a mouthful." "Well, okay, let's shorten it. What shall we call him then? Just Wolf?" "Wolf?" cried the other voices. "What a joke! Ha! A mouse called Wolf." And they all giggled at their little brother, not caring, as usual, whether his feelings were hurt. They could not know that, in fact, he was delighted. It's a pretty cool name. Okay, well, that's where we'll end for today. And tomorrow I'll read to you chapter 3, which is called A Song. Bye.